My name's Anthony Hutton. I am a barber, so I cut hair and talk shit for a living. I'm founder of the Never Throw in the Towel project, which is a mission to try and tackle and fight against this awful problem that we have with male suicide. I'm a husband and a very proud dad of two boys, Cruz and Xander. I grew up in Consett, County Durham. I grew up in in a place called Delves Lane, and there was grandma, granddad, mum, Auntie Heather, Uncle David, and there was me, the baby. When I was a kid, I don't know whether it was installed in me, but I was extremely competitive, and that kind of took me into being such a huge, I was obsessed with sports, and everything I wanted to do when it came to sports was win. I became obsessed with trying to be a footballer, and so that made me, I was a very sensible young kid. I wasn't interested in academic. I was absolutely useless at school. I remember the first time I walked into the job centre, and I basically had to get a job. And obviously, because I had no education, there was a post office job that came up, and that, to me, that was like, all right, well, I'll be outside. So I went and got a job at Royal Mail, and I was probably the worst postman that you'll ever meet. My first ever day that I worked as a postman, I started at 5 a.m, and I actually ended up getting lost. I didn't finish work till 6:30 at night. There was a bloke who seen me delivering mail, and I'll never forget this, and he was from Yorkshire, and he went, "Flippin' hell, son, have you been shagging?" I was a postman in Hexham, so it was about half an hour away from Consett, probably about 40 minutes away, and my grandma couldn't get in touch with us, and my grandma got my best mate, Philip Curran, to pick her up, and I'll never forget this. I'd just finished my Royal Mail job, in this street in Hexham. I was knackered, hadn't ate, hadn't drank. It was a sunny day, and I'd just seen my grandma and my best mate randomly at the end of the street, searching for me, coming to me rescue. I'd worked at Royal Mail for a year and a half or something, and it just didn't sit with me. And I remember speaking to a bloke called Brian who'd worked there for 20 odd years, and I just thought, is that my life? And I thought, no, it can't be. But I didn't really see an opportunity. I thought, I've got no trade and I've got no education. What can I do? And I literally was thinking, what can I do? What can I do to change things up? And I thought, if I get on Big Brother, that could potentially change my life. I was a huge fan of Big Brother. I remember I'll never forget watching the first ever season when Craig was on, and I was hooked from day one. And it became this huge idea on this huge pedestal that coincided with actually stumbling across this new job that I'd got on the side. So I became a 70s disco dancer, which was the best job ever. I remember the first ever night, I was proper nervous, and I remember putting on my flares and putting on this polyester shirt, and I'd bought this wig. I got this fantastic wig. I think it was about 110 quid. And I remember putting the wig on, and then I put my EVA sunglasses on. And I remember looking in the mirror thinking, this is fucking me. I am absolutely all over this. The post office, that's not me. This is me.
So I'm Johnny Regan, ex Big Brother 3 housemate. I was runner-up in 2002. The reason I wanted to go into Big Brother, there's a few different reasons. It was a phenomenon. It was brand new, reality TV. There was no such thing. Big Brother was the first reality TV on. So it was just so different. My dad rang us one night and said, "Are you watching this crazy thing on TV, The House?" I said, "No." He says, "You need to watch it, son." He says, "They're mental." They crackers. And he says, "It's dead entertaining though. There's cameras everywhere. You can see everything they're doing." So that phone call from my dad was the thing that got us watching Big Brother. And I watched that series. It was the first series. I thought to myself, that looked mint.
Surviving reality documentary.
Cunt.
Thanks. Pete Bennett.
Hello. Wait. Hello, I'm Pete Bennett. I was the winner of Big Brother 7. Hey, come on. No, I'll do it again. Hi, I'm Pete Bennett. Wait. I was the winner of Big Brother 7. I did a lot of acid, do you know what I mean? That's gotta be honest, I was a raver. Saw my best mate die on the railway track when I was tripping my nut off. Yeah, and then later that year I had too much acid again and went up the spiral to heaven, and then I saw him at the end, and then, this is a short story. I was in hell for 2 years when I came back. Forgot who I was, went completely acid casualty, got put in a nut house, and then, well, I started getting better. You know, I got better, but yeah, so I thought I'd take acid again, silly me, and next thing you know, I had another mad trip, and I went down to hell and in the spiral to hell, and I came back up, and halfway up he came down in an apparition and I said, "Help, I need help, what do I do, how do I get back to heaven?" He went, "Look over there," and I went like that, and there was a building, it turned into Big Brother 7, and he went, "To get back to heaven, you've got to win Big Brother 7. Well, he didn't say I was got to, he said you're gonna win it. So I went and auditioned, and because he said I was going to win Big Brother, yeah, I went straight through to the last round. Didn't even have to do any games. Just went straight through to the last round. Got a star on my form, and I knew I was going to win because I got told by my friend coming down from heaven. Yeah, that's true story. I know it sounds mad, but that was how I was living my life back then, you know. And it all came true. So you know what I mean. Hey, heaven, thanks, man. You know what I'm saying? So what? You know, don't do acid anymore, obviously. Yeah. I auditioned on acid, though. I've got to admit, I did actually. I had one more little bit of acid on the audition, and that's the last bit of acid I've ever done. So.
I thought to myself, if I won it, I could maybe pay my mum and dad's mortgage off, because I was still living with my mum and dad at the time, and I'm dead grateful to my mum and dad for everything they've done. They've brought us 4 kids up. We're getting everything we've ever wanted, you know. We've had a great childhood, a good upbringing. So I thought, yeah, I could pay my mum and dad's mortgage off. That'll leave a little bit left over for me and the missus, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And there's also that side of you that I think most people will relate to this, what it would be like to be on TV and be well known, you know.
Back in 2005, Big Brother was probably at the cusp of its wave in terms of its popularity. And I got to the audition, got to the front of the queue. They said, "Tell us your name and tell us something interesting about yourself." I said, "My name's Anthony and I'm a 70s disco dancer." And they said, "Dance for me." I went, "No problem." Just started 70s disco dancing in front of everybody. Then I went and spoke down the camera lens for a minute why I should be on Big Brother. And that day I'd done a few more auditions and literally smashed it out the park, and they invited me to the next day.
I got a phone call saying that we'd like to see you when we're in Newcastle. You've getting to the next stage, so you need to be at the Premier Inn on the quayside for this time, and it's like a sort of team building exercises, interviews. And you go through stages during the day. If you're not successful, they send you away and you carry on going.
I got interviewed from a Big Brother voice, and they were asking us all about me life. They were asking us about me upbringing. They actually got really deep into it. They basically said, "We'll let you know if you get further into the competition, into the process. We'll be in touch. If you don't get any further, we simply won't be in touch."
They kept it back, about 10 of us back. We had a break for lunch. Now, this is unbelievable, but this really happened, right? So, Lunchtime, I went off to get something to eat, and a man jumped off the viaduct, not the viaduct, the Tyne Bridge, and killed himself, and he landed in front of us. And I thought, you couldn't write that. And it obviously it stuck in my mind, and I was like shaking up. I sat down, had a cup of coffee and a sandwich, and I couldn't help but think, you know, this poor guy, obviously the police and ambulance and everything arrived, but I just thought, you know, the way this has gone, I was late this morning, and this poor guy's jumped off the Tyne Bridge and committed suicide and landed in front of us. Never had a day like this before in my life, kind of thing. And I started thinking to myself, I'm going to go in, aren't I? I've done this for a laugh. I'm going to end up going in there.
Months and months had passed by, so it got to the point where I'd kind of forgot about it, and there was round about 2.5 weeks before the show started, and like I said, I was always a huge fan of the show. Every summer in my head was like, it's Big Brother time, like I would always watch it. So that time was approaching, and I remember thinking, I wonder who's got on the show. I wonder if I've auditioned with anyone who's ended up getting on the show. And I remember I'd been out, I think it was a bank holiday in Whitley Bay, and I was driving back from staying at my mate's house in Whitley Bay, and I got a phone call with a withheld number, and I thought it was going to be a girl, and I thought, don't know whether I want to answer this, and I thought, no, I'll just answer it anyway. Picked up the phone, answered it. I'll never forget this, and it was this southern female voice. She went, "Hi, it's Steph from Big Brother." I was like, "Hello." She was like, "Hi, Anthony." She was, "We want to see you. Can you make it down to London tomorrow? We'll pay for your train tickets. We'd like to have a chat with you." I was like, yeah, I can make that.
3 weeks went by, hadn't heard anything, so I started telling everybody I went for Big Brother, but obviously I never got in, kind of thing, but it was a good laugh. And then the phone rang a couple of days after I'd started telling everybody, and it was like, it came up on my mobile, withheld number, and this voice just said, "Okay, so it's so-and-so from Big Brother. We'd like to meet you down in London, so we need you to get on this train. Keep all the receipts for anything you buy, anything you spend, because you'll get that back. Get on this train, come down to London, and we need you to walk to, I don't know, say for example, Oxford Street. You're going to stand outside of HMV, and somebody will come and meet you at HMV. They'll tap you on the shoulder, and just follow them. They'll take you to where you need to be." And there was literally, at going through the stages, there was about 5 or 6 times where I had to do this trip back and forwards to London for these secret meetings.
I'd never been down to London. Never been to London before in my life. I think I was 23. Gets to King's Cross. I remember I needed to go for a wee, and I remember I had to pay to go for a wee, and I was like, what? I think it was like 30-40 pence to go for a piss. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Never had to pay to go to the toilet before. Anyway, I got told I had to meet it outside this shop. I forget what it was called, but I just had to wait. And anyway, got told someone would come and collect me. Anyway, I was just stood in King's Cross, and someone came and got me. He said, "Right, you've just got to come with us."
So after there were about 5 or 6 secret meetings down in London, again, not being able to tell anybody, taking days off work, things like that, you get a phone call saying that you're quite far on. So this is literally now, probably is about 4 to 5 months on since the initial selection day at Newcastle. So months down the line, I got a phone call from one of the producers saying, "I'm going to come up to Durham, where you live, and stay with you for a couple of days. We'd like to meet your family. I want to come to your house, meet your family, meet your friends."
Anyway, they came to the concert, and they met me grandma. And my grandma was just like, she's the best cheerleader you could ever have. She was like, "Listen, get him on that show. All the girls are going to love him. He'll absolutely win it. Get him on there." And You could see the woman, she just fell in love with my grandma.
Don't tell anybody who I am. Tell them you met us at college, or I'm an old friend that you met on holiday. So again, you've got to tell lies. Porcupines to everybody you love and trust.
That night, I was actually doing the 70s disco show in Whitley Bay. And I'll never forget this. So I was portraying being this ladies' man. And I'll never forget this. It was total perfect timing. I'd met, I went to Jesmond first and was meeting a couple of the lads in the bar. And there was this, this producer who was kind of just on the sly, just observing. And some lad rocked up to us. It was my mate's brother. And he steamrolled up and he was like, "Flippin' Harry, how many birds are you getting at the minute? You're on fire." And she all seen this, and I was just like, yes. Like, this is like giving me praise to get on the show. And anyway, she went and watched the 70s disco show.
So once the producer had been up and stayed in the northeast and had a couple of days with me and my family, the next stage was to go back down to London, another secret meeting, and they took you to this place where you had to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I'm not quite sure what he was, and it was his job to try and put you off. So what he said to me when I went in, he knew a lot about us. I couldn't believe how much he knew about us. Obviously he'd studied my application form, but he'd also watched the footage because they film every meeting. He'd also watched all the footage, and he seemed to know quite a lot about my family as well. But it was his job to put us off, and he said to us, right, he says, there's the Big Brother house, there's the doorway. He says, there's you. He says, you're that close, which I didn't know. So I was surprised. That took us by surprise when he told us that. Why do you want to do this? Are you happy with your life? And I went, well, yeah, I'm happy, but this looks like a house, looks mint. Who wouldn't want to do it? And then he got all serious and said, well, if they catch you naked in the house and they do a close-up of your genitalia, I always remember this, I thought this was a weird one to say, and they go close-up of your genitals, and he says they want to put that on a box of orange juice in the supermarkets and sell it with your genitals on, you can't do nothing about it. And I laughed and I said, yeah, but they're not going to do that. And he went, and then he was like giving us more things. He was saying and I see you're a singer-songwriter. If you write a song and you sing it in the house, there's nothing stopping Big Brother saying we own the rights to that now. So he says, if you're happy with your life, why do you want to do this? But thinking back, 28, 29 I was, young and daft, you don't think of the consequences. To be honest, you don't know what the consequences are going to be of doing a reality TV show unless you've done it. So all I could see was good times, happy times, fun, laugh, being on the telly, making money maybe, So I think it'll be fair, a lot of us ex-housemates and reality TV stars to say, you probably take no notice of what they try and warn you.
I was sat in my grandma's house and I got a phone call, and it was off a woman called Sharon Powers, who was the executive producer of the show. She rang me and she said, "Hi Anthony," she went, "Listen, you're going to be a housemate. You're on the show."
And then guess what? I got the phone call. I was only in.
A couple of days later, they said, right, you've got to meet in this location. Bring your suitcase, bring everything with you that you're going to need to go on the show. Anyway, someone picked us up and they said, right, we're in Hutton. We're going to France for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they whisked me to Belgium. Yeah, I got whisked away to Belgium. Wankers! And you know what I mean? And I got put on like a beer drinking tour. So by the time I got into Big Brother, I had a right beer belly. Felt quite embarrassed about that. And I was like, because I was always a bit conscious about the weight anyway. So, but I was like, fuck, I'm in Belgium. Shit, man, it's the worst place ever. I stopped drinking beer ages ago. Thanks for the beer, by the way.
Got the train down to London. Chaperone picked us up from the railway station, King's Cross. I got put in a car, in the back of this blacked out car. And he said, "I'm really sorry we've got to do this, Johnny, but it's protocol." And they put a black sack over me. I thought, what the hell have I get myself into here?
We got back to London and I had to wear this mask. They gave me this mask because they needed to hide my face. And I think I was I think it was the Hilton Hotel, this hotel was right next to the Big Brother house. It was L Street Studios. That's where the Big Brother house was. And I wasn't allowed to leave the hotel room.
So on the day of Big Brother, the night that it started, we took to the studio, held in a room. We all had our own little room that we were held up in for the full day. We just had to go out every now and then to do photo shoots for the vote for Johnny. If you want to evict Johnny, vote for Johnny. And there was that picture of us with me French onion jumper on. And everybody always reminds us, oh, I've got my arms folded and my head on a tilt. Yeah, they took them pictures. Obviously, we hadn't met any of the housemates yet because they were all in other areas of the studio. And then when it got to about, I think it was about 6 o'clock, they got us in the cars ready and they pulled the cars in a trail around the back of the house. My chaperone got in the front and said, don't look back. There was a Big Brother, there was a housemate in front of us. He went in first, I went in second, I believe, that's right. So he was in front, he's obviously been told not to turn around, I could just see his head. And then obviously I knew all the other housemates were behind us in their cars, but don't look back. And then I just remember the walkie-talkie saying, go, 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 housemate number 2, go.
Mate, honestly, that is probably the biggest buzz I've ever had. I think what was the second biggest buzz? I don't know. I've had a lot of things. That was honestly, I reckon that was probably the biggest adrenaline buzz I've ever had. Honestly, because I got out of that car, wankers, and everyone was going absolutely crazy, like absolutely like mental, like the first time I've ever been like cheered at like that in my whole life. You know what I mean? So I'm not used to that. I was some nutto who had Tourette's who got like started on a lot and bullied a lot and whatever it is.
I'm starting to get, my heart's starting to pump thinking about it. Got out, give it a big woo, Ric Flair style. Started rocking through, dancing, high-fiving, kissing girls, but I give it the bigging too much. I actually end up looking like a dickhead.
Oh, he's loving it. He's really working. Oh no, look, he's doing his 70s dance. I love it.
Got to right at the end, done this John Travolta pause. The whole crowd were booing me. I'm actually getting booed. Normally you're getting booed when you leave. I'd actually got to the point where I was getting booed before I'd even went in.
I've had me toast and me lemon curd. Oh, what is a cup of tea.
Since I've had him.
Me cup of tea. Yeah.
What's in your cup?
Tea. Well, when he went into Big Brother, I was worried because he was 23. If he'd got beaten, got put out the first week, which I thought he would have, even though he was a star, I just was scared of what the public would say about him. You know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy Big Brother all the way through until the final, to be honest.
When I got out the car and saw the crowds, and my mum and dad and Joanne, my girlfriend, were at the barrier, I just made it straight for them, cuddled them, and I think I said to my mum and dad, I'm so sorry about this. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I've done. Cuddled Joanne, said, don't worry about us, I'll be all right. And she said, just be you, just have a laugh. Have fun, I'll be watching, I'm going to miss you. And then it was like up the stairs and in the house, and I remember my mouth was that dry with nerves. I went in the house like that.
Open the car door, it's Pete! And then I'm like, and it's like the crowd goes wild, Pete's walking, and I was like, oh my God. And literally my heart was going mental. I was pumping out of my chest and I was completely like dazzled. I was like, a deer in some headlights, and I was like, ah! And I was trying my best to not look like I was freaking out, but I was absolutely going mental. I was like inside, but I was trying to hold it together, trying not to look like I was, shitting my pants, because I was absolutely crapping it, but everyone was loving it, and I was like, and yeah, and that's got to be one of the biggest rushes I've ever had, honestly. mental. That was crazy. Yeah, and I held it together. But if I was to like really express my emotions, I'd be going, oh my God, wow, what's going on? Ah! You know what I mean?
And anyway, got in the house, and it was just I relished every day because I was so happy and so over the moon and so privileged, because I was such a huge fan of the show. Every single day I was just like happy as Larry. The two main storylines in the Big Brother house I was massively involved in. So there was a young gay guy who formed strong feelings for me. That was the main storyline of the whole programme, and it almost kind of got to a certain extent like a relationship type feel, in terms of he was coming onto me a lot of the time. Like, he was saying a lot of, when he was having a drink, he would talk about his feelings towards me, and I was like, whoa, listen, I'm straight.
So being in the house, I soon realised, after the novelty didn't wear off for a couple of days, but relationships are formed so quick and so intense in there. So I remember I literally fell in love straight away with Alison. She was me right-hand woman kind of thing. She was just nuts. Just this huge, massive energy that just wanted to play, wanted to laugh, wanted to carry on. Nothing serious, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to go in there and just have a bloody good laugh.
Also, there was a female who said she was pregnant to me, which was mad. So, with the McCosey situation, there was a drunken night in the jacuzzi, and it was, you know, I still get asked to this day about the jacuzzi incident. Yeah, so there was an incident that looked like we might have had sex, which we didn't. And she told a couple of the housemates, and she'd went into the diary room asking for a pregnancy test, saying she thinks she could be pregnant. So she told the viewers and shared that, and she told a couple of her friends. She didn't say it to me, so I was completely oblivious to it.
Oh, with McCosey, I was absolutely past myself, because I was so traumatised at the time. I kind of believed it. I thought, oh my God, I believed it. With Craig, I accepted it. You know, it was a hard life to me. It was simple as that. And if he'd been gay, so what? But he wasn't. So what if he was? But he wasn't. So yeah.
But to be honest, somehow, luckily, I was involved in the two biggest storylines on the show, but actually came out smelling the roses in both situations, because I actually dealt with the lad who had strong feelings with me. I was very nice, and I had empathy, and dealt with that actually in reflection with quite a bit of maturity. I was very nice in that situation. And then obviously when a girl said she needs a pregnancy test after around about 15-16 hours, there's not much credibility in that, in the public seeing that she was lying, and that she really had a hard time when she come out of the house. She got booed like terribly. Even Davina actually had a go at her in our interview. So them two big situations, them two big stories on the show, I came out smelling the roses, and actually them two stories probably helped me win the show.
Yeah, probably did, yeah.
I think, I had low points in the house, but I didn't realise I was getting low. I thought I was all right, but I didn't realise that I was going quiet for a bit, and I realised that halfway through the show, they stuck a psychologist in the diary room, and I had to chat to this voice, and he was sorting my head out, and I didn't realise that I was actually really fucked up at the time. I think it was all because I think there was lots of fights going on with all the birds behind my back, were all fighting over me in some weird way, but I don't know. There's lots of Yeah, apparently I was the most fancied housemate ever, but also felt fucking great when the wankers left, you know what I mean? And they were like, yeah! It was like good against evil in that house. It was great, like, yeah.
So what you don't think about, and what a lot of people don't see, is mentally how it affects you in there, because you're locked in this house, which it isn't massive, with people that, yeah, you all like each other for the first week, but then, like I say, cracks start to appear. Yeah, they start talking about you behind your back, you talking about them behind their back, and you can't react how you would react on the outside, because you're warned when you go in there that, you know, you're pulled in for warnings all the time in the diary room, just for verbal arguing and swearing at other housemates or shouting. You do get pulled in the diary room and warned, so you can't vent your feelings as you would on the outside in there. And something so minor in there can just tip you over the edge.
I'll never forget being sat on that sofa, and it was all of this visualization, all of these dreams, all of this moment of like wanting to get on the Big Brother house, to actually be in that moment where I'm live on Channel 4, I'm sat on the sofa, and then Davina McCall comes on to announce who the winner is.
Anthony!
And that pause, and then when she said Anthony, it was just like, whoa.
Jade was fourth, so I was frightened for Jade, because Jade got a lot of boos and abuse shouted over the walls of the house. And I was just, you know, praying to God, thinking, please, when Jade goes out, don't boo her. You know, she's a 21-year-old lass at the end of the day, and she's had a good laugh in here. And yeah, she's said some things to some housemates and upset some of them, this, that and the other, but we all had. Anyway, when the doors opened and there was just this huge roar of cheer for Jade, it was like, oh, this is going to be all right. It's going to be all right, you know. And Alex went next. He went out third. He got cheered. And then it was down to me and Kate. And I remember me and Kate were sat holding hands, looking at each other. And I could hear Johnny, Johnny, Johnny from the crowds outside. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, I might win this, you know. I might win it. But then Davina announced it was Kate, and I was genuinely over the moon because I loved Kate. A bit pissed off that I wasn't going to get the money, like, but one of them things. And then I remember going up the steps, and they were saying, Johnny, you have been placed runner-up, please leave the house. And there was a countdown for the doors to open. I remember being terrified, thinking, I don't want to go out, I don't want to go through these doors, because you're institutionalised and all, you've been in this bubble, haven't you, for all these weeks. The doors opened and it was just a sea of fire helmets. All the crowd had fire helmets on, and there was banners with my name on, and they were screaming and shouting, Johnny, Johnny, and I just like was overwhelmed. I wasn't expecting that, you know. And I remember Davina's reaction to us. She just ran at us and grabbed all of us and gave us a good squeeze. And she'd said in my ear, your mum and dad and Joanne's here. I love your mum and dad and Joanne. I love them, they're lovely, you know. And she put us at ease. There's adverts. And then I'm sat on the couch getting interviewed by Davina.
You know what, it's weird, because you know, like, and I told you before that I knew I was going to win because of the whole like trip I was on. Yeah, I had to, it was a weird one, because if you know you're going to win already, I wasn't that surprised. So I had to like kind of go, yeah, I can't believe it, oh, but you know, because I couldn't just sit there and go, yeah, I knew that. You know.
Pete! You are the winner of Big Brother 2006.
Going from a kid who had Tourette's and no one liked him and I was made a mockery of, and you know, and no one knew what Tourette's was, to now I knew that going out into a world where everyone knows what Tourette's is now, and now people, I'm accepted suddenly. I'm accepted, and You know, it's like I've been reborn, you know, and I'm in heaven again, you know what I mean? So that was exciting to know that I was going out into a world that suddenly I was something, and being famous cured me from being not so, you know, like I wouldn't get started on now in the street, you know what I mean? You know, I was accepted, so that was exciting to be accepted.
The doors opened like that, and the fireworks were coming. I thought, how good would it look if I just held the John Travolta pose when the doors come up and there'd be fireworks. Anyway, that's what I done. I just literally held this John Travolta stance, pose. The doors came up, there was fireworks, and it was just like, wow, this is just unbelievable. Who is it?
Cheers.
Is it Chase? What does he do, Cruz? Does he go, ow, ow, ow? To be honest, I was probably always going to win it because my grandma racked up a £6,000 phone bill to win the show. So she literally had, it was around about £6,000, wasn't it?
£4,000.
£4,000. Sorry, you never let this truth get in the way of a good story. I had a couple of £1,000 on it.
4,000.
But I knew she racked up a massive, colossal phone bill. She literally had family members and other kids on the street pressing redial, voting for Anthony, vote for Anthony. It was like a military operation to get me to the victory.
Oh, there's one more thing I remember as well, right? Because I was so nervous going out, and the shirt I chose to wear, it was like a pale coral colours, like sort of stripy shirt, and because I was so nervous, my armpits were sweaty. So when Davina kept trying to put my arm up to cheer at the crowds, she was shouting, "It's Johnny, everybody!" I kept pulling my arm down and going, "No, no!" And there's loads of photographs of us in the papers and magazines, like over the next few days, we'd get big sweaty armpits, and I remember thinking, no, why?
Well, I got 100k, and then I got whisked off to the bank to look at it, and I went, "Here, Mum, have that." So I gave it to Mum. Well, actually, not all of it. Not gonna let me like. It was 70k I gave my Mum because she had a house in France. She was looking after me all my life with Tourette's. Before Big Brother, I was like, "Mum, guess what? I'm gonna win Big Brother," because I got told, you know, I was gonna win Big Brother. So, and she's like, "Oh, go on then, Pete." And I said, "I'm gonna give you the money to pay for your mortgage." So yeah, I did that, gave her the money, and she paid for a mortgage in France. Me, so that was good. Also, when I got out as well, yeah, some bloke came to me and said, "You got an agent." I was like, "Have I? Oh, I didn't know that." And apparently, I had an agent. He worked with Russell Brand and the other one, Jade Goody. Yeah, so they were there. "Hello, how you doing?" Keith Lemon and all that lot. And he went, "Right, there's a magazine wants to take a picture of you," and I was like, and do a story. I was like, "Safe? Oh, yeah, safe." He like, "They're asking 200 grand," and just for a laugh, I went, "Nah, 250. So he walked out of the room, and he came back and he went, "Okay, they've agreed 250. I went, "Whoa, I just made a 250 happen instead of 200. And then there was someone else who went, "We've got to write a book, 300 grand. I was like, "Oh, all right, and cool, that's that, yeah, I'm fine with that, yeah, no, got no problem in there." And then I got a tax bill, so that's half of it gone. So yeah, pretty much sort of, yeah, fucking hell, they were really expensive. But over 40% gone, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's hardcore, man. But you know, never mind. And then I got a tax fines as well. Didn't get the thing in time. I think what was it? What they called again? The financial people that do stuff. Accountant. The accountants didn't get the forms in time. I got a 50k fine. That's that as well. So I gave the government over 450k. Wow, that's fucked up. So yeah, yeah.
I hadn't been out in public until the next day. The Mirror came to do a photo shoot with me and Joanne. And when I went down onto the grounds of the hotel, it was just people running left, right and centre, running arrows.
I had this such extreme high of fame. It was just a huge wallop. You're famous now. You've got to take in consideration how much of a leap it was. I was a young, immature young man in his early 20s, lived with grandma, granddad and mum. I was very mollycoddled.
I love fame. I think it's great. I love meeting people and that, and I like everyone who comes up to me and chats to me. I love having bands and meeting new people. I don't care who they are. You know, if they're nice to me and like, all right, Pete, mate, I'm like, yeah, hello, right, and I'll have a chat and just have a laugh and, you know, have a picture, and I really like it. I like it.
The attention, at first, it's like, it's amazing. It's like, I can't believe this, because everybody's so lovely and they just want to hug you and tell you stories about how they watched it and how you did this thing that made them laugh, and they were feeling down at the time, and you brought them sort of, you brightened their day up or the night up, or, you know, you brought happiness into the room, and all these stories was like, really? You know? But yeah, and there was one girl apparently in a coma, and the mum had said something about me. She was a massive Big Brother fan and she'd been watching it, and the mum had said something and mentioned something about me. Johnny's not looking too good at the minute. He's lying in bed lots. He's looking really miserable and down. And her hand moved, and apparently that was the first movement that she'd done while she was in the coma, and she started waking up. And I'm not saying I woke her up, but she said, when I mentioned you and Big Brother, her hand moved. So she said, you know, I'll always thank you for that, even though it wasn't me.
So then to move to be living in London, to be doing all this famous stuff, I remember meeting my agent. One of the things that we were going to do is that she said, right, do you want to do PAs? And I said, what's PAs? And they said, oh, well, basically you go to a nightclub and you get paid for it. And I was like, really? Where do I sign up? And she was like, we're going to get you, it's going to be £3,000 a visit for, you just have to stay for an hour. And we're going to get you £3,500 for your 70s disco show. And that was just like, that was just crazy, because I was a young lad who loved nightclubs. I was all over them. So to actually get paid to go and visit a nightclub and get drunk and talk to girls, and actually you're going to get paid for it, it was just like, wow. I ended up releasing a 70s disco workout DVD.
Right guys, we're going to step it out to the left.
And they do basically random zoom ins to me crotch.
I remember being asked to do Your Face or Mine. It was a Big Brother special, and the stars of that particular episode was me and Joanne. And it was Jimmy Carr and June Sarpong presenting it. And I remember, and I got paid for doing it, like everything you do, but I remember thinking there's going to be an ulterior motive as to why they've asked for me and Joanne to do this. Are they going to do something? Are they going to try and destroy mine and Joanne's relationship? Honestly, the paranoia was unbelievable. And it wasn't until I got there and met Jimmy Carr and June Sarpong and realised, oh, this is just going to be a bit of fun. But everything I went for, I always questioned, is this going to destroy, you know, is this going to be bad? Is it going to do us harm? Is it going to do Joanne harm? So I just questioned everything. So there was the highs, lots of highs. Met some amazing people, met people I'd watched on the television for years, and got some friendships with some famous people that I thought a lot of. You know, so to have a friendship with people that I've idolised was just amazing. But then 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years down the line, I found myself wanting to be back at home in the northeast. Me and Joanne had just been married, bought a house. The money had been amazing, but I just wanted to go back to being a home bird back in the northeast, being with my wife, and living more of a low-key life. And I think that's where it started to dip even further.
Back then, back in 2005, there wasn't social media. And the thing is with social media, there's good things and there's bad things come from social media. One of the good things in terms of with social media, in terms of reality TV, you can probably stretch the fame and stretch the money, and you can pursue a career for further and longer. Back in 2005, there wasn't social media, so there was that classic 15 minutes of fame.
So if you're at home in the Northeast, there's no work up here for you to do your television presenting or acting or, you know. So it's like a catch-22 situation. You've got to be down south or down in London or down in Manchester. So then the paranoia just said to us kind of thing, there's no slot in life for you anymore when you think about it, is there? Because you've done this for 3 years. You can't go back to fire brigade. So what are you going to do with yourself? And I'm thinking, and yeah, I've earned a lot of money, but traditional Northeast lad, and I don't want to sound sexist, but you know, men are normally the breadwinner. In the olden days they were, and we just bought this house, just been married. I need to keep earning the dough, kind of thing. What am I going to do?
My agent said, you're going to be rich. We're going to work with Guy Chambers and we're going to get a record deal. We're going to make loads of money. You're going to make millions of pounds. And I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, I went for it. It's a really hard decision because I didn't want to leave my old band. But you know, it was a way that, you know, my agent, my mum, and you know, you're going to make loads of money and work with Guy Chambers. And you know, it did seem like a big, massive, wow, this is going to be cool. But we did the songs, didn't get a record deal, so that fizzled out as well. So I had all these songs, and oh dear. So that I was gutting as well. So that didn't work. The TV stuff didn't work. Wankers. So because they said don't go on telly if you're a musician, I was like, all right, I won't do that either. So I did the music thing. That didn't work either. So everything's just failing. No music career and no TV career. I was just completely gone. That fucked me up, man. You know what I mean? I had all the, you know, going on Big Brother. I thought, yeah, I'm gonna ride the wave. I'm gonna be like, you know, on TV. Gonna be doing music. Gonna be like, gone, bosh, smashed. You know, I was from the highest, like, yes then, to nothing. And then my best friend died of cancer, and I was like, you know what I mean? Absolutely, completely fucked me up. Wobbly Bob. Yes, mate, love you, man. So,
There was a point where I felt as everything I touched turned to gold. I just had so much confidence. Everything I was doing was coming off. I was winning Big Brother. I was getting man of the match on. You know, I was going to nightclubs, getting paid, girls, fame, loads of money. You know, thought it wasn't going to end. And that huge high, it's absolutely had a huge low.
So I picked myself up, kicked myself up the arse, as I've done so many times over the last 20 years since Big Brother, and I got a job computer programming. It was a good job, good pay, and it was working night shift. So that was important to me because I wouldn't see members of the public while I was doing my job. I was hidden away on a night shift doing my computer programming, because getting a normal job after you've been on people's screens all that time, and bearing in mind back in our day, it was massive, it was huge. Getting a normal job, after that you're seen as a failure, as I was told so many times by people. You know, being in one of the offices while I was doing the computer programming, somebody would come in and go, "You Johnny off Big Brother?" And I'd go, "Aye, I'd be working away." And they'd say, "What's happened? What are you doing this for?" I was like, "Well, I was in a reality TV show 3 years ago. You've got to carry on earning." I thought you were a fireman. I know, I never went back. Where I had a good 3 years, and you find yourself justifying your life, like, yeah, but I had a great time over the 3 years that I've come out of the house. I'm doing this now. Are you not disappointed?
Then it got to the point where I was the one who was making the calls to the agent. The agent wasn't calling me. I was actually phoning them saying, is there any work coming in? Is there any work coming in? No, there's nothing coming in. There's nothing coming in. And then, I don't know whether there was an actual pivotal, is that the right word? Pivotal moment. But there was a moment where it was like, I might have to get a normal job here.
Oh, getting a job's hard because I couldn't actually get a job because I was too famous to get a job. I was, too famous to get a job. And I was, what was it called again? Too famous to get a job. And no one wanted to hire me anyway because of my notoriety. They just thought, I mean, I did get jobs. Then they find out who I was because the interview went well. And then the manager went, isn't that Pete? No, you can't have him on. And so, yeah, and everywhere I went, I was getting pictures taken of me everywhere. Every job I got, they said, you can't have that, Pete. You can't be doing pictures with people. And obviously, you know, just had too much. There was too many things in the papers about me for me to have a decent job. You know, there's me sniffing all sorts of things and naughty stories about naughty ongoings, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it was really difficult to get a job.
It was my ego, my pride, my paranoia of what people would think of me if I got a normal job. Because for so long, I'd been used to getting, I was Anthony from Big Brother.
When I was at my lowest, I wanted to go out all the time to not medicate with booze, but there's a saying amongst my friends and family, there's a drunk Johnny inside you, and we love him, and we haven't seen him for a long time because he's just fun and he's loving, and he's kid mischievous. And we haven't seen that side of you for a long time. We've only seen this very solemn, deep thinking, paranoid Johnny, you know? Where's the old Johnny at? And you don't get that back. You'd lose a part of your personality being in there, and it never comes back. And I've spoke to, you know, fellow housemates, and they agree, you know, you lose a bit of you and you never ever get that back.
I had a lot going on, you know. I did find myself having lots of intrusive thoughts. There was lots of them, but there was more going on than just that. There was lots of shit going on from my childhood that I hadn't, you know, sorted out either. You know, you suddenly, you're the top of the game, you're most famous man in Britain to the low, like no one, you know, the next big brother comes along and then there's a new winner and then that person is the most famous man in Britain. And then you kind of become nothing, you know.
Whether you loved me or you hated me, people knew who I was. And I don't mean that to be egotistical, but most people knew who I was. And this had cooked up in my head, the thought, if I get a normal job, I will absolutely get laughed at. The ego, the pride and the paranoia, it really cooked up. And that basically went further, and it was getting to the point where there was obviously money was getting spent, but there was no money coming in. That led me to all of my kind of, my best mates, my schoolmates, they all had the normal jobs. The best mate was getting married. He was having kids. The other lads were having girlfriends, settling down, pursuing a career. Where there was me, completely didn't know where to go.
And what sucked as well, you know, Ultimate Big Brother, after my best friend had died of cancer, I was going to go on Ultimate Big Brother because they called me and I thought, and they said, Pete, we want to go on Ultimate Big Brother. And I was like, oh yeah, great. That's going to kind of lift my spirits up. And yeah, just a week before I was going to go on, they called me up and said, you're not going in. And for some reason, it broke my heart because I was like, oh great, this will get me up again. This will get me back up, you know, and get a bit of money and maybe, you know, get me back on the gravy train, baby. And, you know, they just dropped me at the last minute. Again, affecting my mental health. I really felt myself go deeper into depression and stuff. You know, I was definitely struggling with life quite a lot there.
When I was going out, I wanted to carry on the way I used to carry on in the nightclubs, dancing my socks off on the dance floor, knocking shots back, jumping around like an idiot, cheering and, you know, just having fun and enjoying myself. But that just brought attention onto me, and sometimes not good attention. You know, you'd hear people saying, look, Aaron, who does he think he is? The cock. You know, just because he's been on the telly. Look, Aaron, he thinks he's mint. Don't. I'm just having a good laugh with me mates, like you probably are. You know, nobody's looking at you saying, look at that cock, because he's knocking shots back and jumping around and dancing on the dance floor. So I was going inside myself more and more and more, and stupidly, but I did it. I discovered cocaine, and somebody had said to us, this'll just make you forget around everything that's going on around you. Try it, and don't get us wrong, I'm not a follower. I've never been pressured into doing anything in my life, but at this point I was pretty desperate.
I was just still going out, still partying. Then I started hanging around with, you know, people who wanted to hang around with me just because they'd seen that I was the guy from the TV, and I was wanting to continuously going out. This led me to, I came across drugs, and my only purpose was basically going out on the drink, and I was going out and I was taking drugs, and this was getting to the point, this was also leading to the point where I was actually getting extremely down, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I was thinking, am I going to get some form of fame? And it never happened. It never come back. And I'd got to the point where I was in a really, really dark place. I felt like such a loser, because I was thinking, how the hell have I single-handedly managed to get myself some fame, get myself on telly, get myself all of this money, and now it's all dwindled, and now it's at the point where I've got no job, and I'm doing drugs. I'm hanging around with people that I never would normally hang around with. I was ending up at some rough parties with people who I never would be around.
And I thought, I'll try anything. If it's gonna bring the old me out, I'll try it. And lo and behold, it did. I remember going in the toilets of this nightclub, doing a few lines of cocaine, and I was invincible. I'd just come out of the toilet, and I just thought to myself, I can do what I want now. And I did. And I had one of the best nights. This sounds bad because, you know, I'm not advocating doing it, but this is just how it affected me and what was going on in my head. I was invincible, and I came out the toilet and I was on the dance floor, busting the moves out. I had a massive smile on my face. I was happy. I was having a laugh, and I remember one of my mates saying, "Hello, old Johnny. Where have you come from?" And that stuck. And I remember thinking, right, so that's all I've got to do, eh? And if anybody had commented on us, like, just because you've been on telly, man, I wouldn't have given an absolute flying fuck at all, you know. I was just invincible at that moment. So that was it, downward slope. Every time I go out, I need cocaine.
It gives you such an extreme high, and that was probably, in reflection, that was probably this high it was taking me away, and it was maybe tapping into what I'd had from the fame. The lows from this drug were absolutely horrendous. They were and it was such an addictive drug. When you took it, you wanted more.
None of my family knew. Only a couple of friends knew. I was always really secretive of it because I was ashamed as well. So I suppose I had like a double life, two lives. The side that they saw of us, sensible, family, fun-loving, Johnny, that was troubled. They knew that. And then when I was out, to a certain extent, the old Johnny, because of drugs.
My house was one of the party houses. I'd bought a house in Newcastle with kind of like some of the winnings that I'd made from Big Brother. Actually ended up resulting in missing 5 mortgage payments with that house, and was close to losing the house. That house was a bit of a drug house where the party was coming, people were coming to my house. I wasn't paying for drugs because the lads seen me as, well, it was my house, and I was the guy from TV.
I went probably a year of doing it, and then I realised this isn't good. You can't. I remember going for an interview for getting an even higher position in the job that I was doing, and it was to work down in London on the Olympics. And I remember thinking, I wonder if I need to do a couple of lines of coke before I get interviewed. And that's when it hit us, and I thought, no, you cannot go on like this. You cannot, every time you need a bit of confidence, you can't be going off into some bog somewhere and snorting coke.
When the party was over, when they were leaving my house, that's when I was in my darkest moments. That's when I always remember being in the house, and I don't know why. And I would always look at the light switch, and I always had envisioned in my head, I thought, if someone could just press that button and it would be all over, I would have said, just press it, please, just press it, because I felt my self-worth was completely gone. They are what known as passive suicidal thoughts, where I just, on a daily basis, I just thought it would be best if I wasn't here.
So stopping the cocaine, giving myself a kick up the arse. I got the job, so I got posted down down in London to work down there full time. And I started coming back up, but then the stresses of the job were immense. So that started playing on my mind. I was living in a hotel out of a suitcase all week. Then I was travelling home on a Friday night, only to be met with Joanne, who lived as a single woman all week in the house on her own. And it was like, we found it was like me invading her space because she'd been on her own all week. Then I was coming in sort of moving things or making a mess, and we found ourselves bickering. And she used to say in jest, but I knew she meant it, I wish you'd get yourself back down there. I can't wait for you to go back down there on Sunday.
Was I at the point where I was literally like looking, thinking about active suicidal thoughts where I was like going to get a rope? No, I wasn't there. I just thought at that present time, the situation I was in, I just thought I would probably be better if I wasn't here, based on my financial difficulties and based on struggling with I thought I'd just messed up. I thought I'd had so much fame, and I just thought, how have you managed to kind of mess it up? And I kept all of that, them thoughts. I kept to myself for a long time.
It all just came to head again, and one day at work, and I've mentioned this to you before, the film Michael Douglas is in, Falling Down, where he gets up in the morning and something tiny happens and it pisses him off. Then something else happens and he gets a bit more pissed off. By the end of the day, he's got people held up in hostages in McDonald's, and he's got a sawn-off shotgun. I had a day like that, but I didn't have a sawn-off shotgun. Basically, the day got worse and worse and worse, and I remember it was a huge shared office, like open space, and I remember just closing my laptop and just slamming my head down on my laptop and I think I banged my head a few times, head putting my laptop like a crazy person. And then I must have fell asleep. And I think somebody come and woke us and said, "Johnny, are you all right?" And I remember getting in my car, just packing up, getting in my car and thinking, right, if I crash my car into one of the bridges, flyovers on the motorway as I'm travelling home, I wonder if I can just like break both my legs, or so I can maybe have 8 months to fix my mind and think about what the hell I'm going to do, because I kind of carry on with this stress. Then my mind said, "No, just end it, man."
It's quite clear cut, quite black and white why I was in that place, because I'd had such a huge high and I'd had such a huge low. I don't think I had mental health. Mine was, from my personal experience, mine was very circumstantial. And it's actually from being embarrassed and shameful about all that, you know what? I'm actually proud of that, because I never give up.
Just, you daft bastard, just end it, man. There's no place for you now. You piss Joanne off every time you go home, so you're better off away from her down in London, because, you know, you piss her off when you go home. You're obviously not very good at your job because you're stressed and you're thinking like this. Just end it. And then you start believing that, thinking, yeah, there isn't any slut for myself. There isn't a slut for us in life anymore. Have I done everything that I'm meant to achieve, and now there's just nothing? So that started crossing my mind. Yeah, maybe I should just, you know, would they all be better off without us? Am I just a burden now because I'm constantly worrying? I'm depressed. I'm this, that, and the other. They're worrying about me. But I drove home, got home, told Joanne I'm not going back to work, and then I was basically a basket case for a year. Never got out of bed. Didn't wash, didn't eat, didn't brush my teeth, and I just literally just rotted away in bed. And there was various times I'd wake up and my mum and dad would be stood at the bottom of my bed crying, and they'd say, "Son, come on, what's going on? Talk to us, this isn't good." I'd get up, come and sit and have a coffee, a little bit of a chat with them, but as soon as they went, I'd go back to bed and I'd be there for another week.
I was a casualty of reality TV, but slowly but surely, I've kept my vision going, and I never gave up. I knew that I had, went down. I was definitely lost, and I tried my best to get back up and feel like I was kind of, I don't know. I feel like I've got my confidence back now, and I feel like I'm the man now again. I never gave up, and I just kept going. I've been 7 years in therapy, and I've sorted my head out. Wait, and realised that fame is bollocks. You don't need fame to be happy. Fame is just this fucking thing that everyone thinks, oh my God, it's like this amazing thing that's going to sort everything out, but it doesn't make you happy. I've tried it, I've done it. Money doesn't make you happy. Money sucks. You know what I mean? When I had all that money, I wasn't happy. I was just like, had a lot of money. Probably losing it is the best thing that's ever fucking happened to me. It grounds you. And being in the fame thing, when you're in the fame thing, go to all the famous parties, everyone's like nose up each other's asses. Oh my God, this sucks. The music's shit. No one's raving, no one's having a dance, they're all like, fucking brand nosing each other, and I'm like, fuck this, mate, gotta get out of this. I went straight back to my raves, went straight back to my parties, went straight back to my roots, because I was less happy being famous, really, to be honest.
Walking at night, raining in the park. It was night time, so of course it was dark. I was thinking about what I'd have tomorrow for lunch. Then under my foot I heard a nasty crash. I'm a snail killer, nothing makes me iller. When my feet hit the ground and I hear the crunchy sound. I'm a snail killer.
Wait! Well, I give you advice. My advice about going on TV, if you really want to go on TV, is you don't need everyone around you to give you the, what's it called again? No, fucking hell, what's that, affirmation? Is that a word? What does affirmation mean? Okay, well, basically, right, you don't really need to get on TV or reality TV shows really, because I think going on reality TV shows, I think people are doing it because, I mean, this is probably why I was doing it, is to get affirmation that I was worthwhile. I think in a way I was doing it because I wanted, you know, to feel, you know, accepted.
I was 40-year-old when my grandma passed away, and I feel so lucky and so blessed that I actually shared them 40 years with her. Mine and my grandma's relationship was, honestly, it was so special. It was beautiful. When it was my 40th birthday, I decided to write her a letter, and the letter basically said, 40 years together, feel so lucky, so blessed to share these years with you. And she sent me a video.
Happy 40th birthday, son. I seen you first, Anthony, and I've had 40 years of sheer pleasure with you, son. I wish you all the best.
The video wished me happy birthday, and it was her boasting about, and she always used to boast about this. She always used to say, I saw you first. I seen you first, Anthony. And it says it on this video. And it was about she was the first person to pick me up when I was born. And I held her hand on her last breath. And although it was very hard seeing the passing of my grandma, I also feel very lucky and feel very blessed to think I had a full circle of life where you welcomed me into the world and I said farewell. The hair industry has actually allowed me to help people, to help men, but it also probably helped me as well. I soon started realising that the barber chair is probably one of the best places for a bloke to talk, because if you look at the relationship that you have with a long-serving customer, the bond, the confidentiality, the trust that you build over time is a very unique friendship that you have. Some of my customers tell me that you're the only person who knows this. There's a gentleman called Nigel whose hair I cut, and me and him had already shared quite a touching bit of experience together, because he was the first ever, still to this day, he's the first person whose hair I've cut who actually came back and seen me and give me a lovely letter.
Walked into Anthony's place at a time that was a little bit tough for me, to be honest, and just spent an hour and a half chatting away and walked out with an absolutely amazing haircut. And I'd gone in feeling probably at the lowest point in my life, and walked out of there with a real spring in my step. I remember going home and being actually sort of quite emotional after that first haircut, and I decided to write a review, and I couldn't work out how to do it on Booksy, so I just typed it up, just saying thank you really for what turned out to be a bit of a kind of unofficial therapy session.
He got in touch saying, listen, we've signed up to doing the retreat, me and my two sons. Actually, we could probably do with it. I've had my son's not in a great headspace, and I actually think getting out in nature and doing this retreat will be actually good for us. There was only 9 men that turned up on the first one, and I was actually disappointed with the turnout. I was actually expecting more people to sign up to it, which is probably diluted because jumping in a cold water in the end of November is probably madness. But anyway, I was considering not pursuing it because of the bad turnout, because there was only 9. I never really seen the full potential growth of it from the first one. It actually, the idea of it growing and growing and growing huge actually came from Craig Granger.
I first met Anthony in 2015. I was getting my hair cut by a mutual friend of ours, and Ross introduced me as being a barman and mixologist at the time, and Anthony had the idea of opening a bar himself. So we just got chatting, and I offered to help Anthony on a weekend in the bar, and I went to work for Anthony for about a year.
He worked for me behind the bar, and he was such a great lad. He was one of the best members of staff you could have. He was just his work ethic and his attitude was unbelievable.
I got a text in November regarding an event Anthony was putting on for November, for a mental health for men event, which I didn't think I really hit the criteria for initially, but I said as a friend I'd go along.
He attended it. I didn't know that he wasn't in a great headspace. I just messaged him just for numbers.
I've had to deal with my own mental health issues. About, I would say, a year and a half ago now, I was really, really struggling. I'd been made redundant twice in the space of 15 months from good jobs, and it knocks your confidence. I had a problem with alcohol. I couldn't control myself when I was drinking alcohol. And even at the beginning of this project, when Ant first reached out to us to come along, he didn't know that I'd been struggling.
He sent me this big long message after attending that retreat saying, "Ant," he went, "listen, you're onto something special here."
So I texted Anthony and said, amazing day. You should really stick at this and scale it.
I don't really class myself as a businessman. Craig's certainly more astute than me when it comes to business. I'm the ideas guy. And he said to me, "I tell you what," he went, "Ant," he went, "listen, this could scale."
We met for a coffee a few weeks later, and Ant had told me about how he was doing keynote speaking on the men's mental health matter around businesses. And I'd seen a bit on LinkedIn what he was doing, and I thought it was an amazing project. But I told him, the events can scale, you can make these bigger, you can help more people.
So in my head, I thought, right, I'm doing it now. Every man in the WhatsApp group who attended the retreat was like, "That's absolutely unbelievable. When's the next one?"
I'm now looking forward to a coffee and a bacon sandwich because I'm absolutely freezing after being in the cold water. But I know I'm going to feel absolutely incredible, as are all the other gentlemen today, and it'll be exhilarated, the hit of dopamine from going in the cold water.
There was such good connection. People were sharing stories, and when we done the cold water dip, right at the end, I said, "We're going to count down from 10, and we're all going to dunk under. 10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everyone dunked under, and it was just like, yes, come on. It was epic. Came away from that, drove back, I drove home literally like that was unbelievable. When we'd done the next one, like I said, there was 32, then we'd done the third one, 72 guys. Then we went on to do women's retreats. We're doing them in different areas now. We've just finished doing the cold water, and the cold water is always the hardest, but it's always the best.
So I'm Joe Hilton, I'm a mental health and personal growth coach. So the most common mental health challenges faced by men today, there's a lot, there's an awful lot. I can only speak from experience. For me, it was a lack of purpose. Now, I feel a lot of people have got that when it comes to mental health. So it's very much a mentality of get to the weekend, because at least then on a weekend, you can almost run away from your problems or drink, party, whatever it might be.
And I think talking taking action, changing things up, exercising, that can help. That you can. Some people can get better.
So I feel men are reluctant to ask for help for mental health based on a lot of old school mentality. So particularly growing up in working class areas, people don't want to talk about how they feel. It might be seen as weak. I believe that stigma's changing now, but I think it's definitely had an impact.
The words never throw in the towel. In boxing terms, that means never give up. Everything that I've got in my life that's the best happened after I've been in those worst places.
I could have gone two ways, and luckily I chose the right path to take. I did have a close friend that didn't, and he committed suicide, bless him. Obviously it's like a nuclear bomb going off in the family and the friends, the devastation it causes, and I'm just so pleased that I did get the help and I did start opening up and talking about it, and I went down the right path.
We've got more awareness now. We definitely have more awareness, and this is vital. It's important.
I think priority is mental health more than money and fame. Mental health.
Community is massive when it comes to mental health, so get around supportive people who can help you. That might be counselling, it might be support groups, it might be men's mental health groups, it might be workshops with other men, but get around other men and talk about how you feel, and get around other men and set goals and change your habits and be inspired.
I was just so lucky to have such a good support network around us. They've all got names. This is Doris, Reggie, after me sister. We lost my sister a few years back. She looks after all the other fish, and my sister was like that. She looked after all of us, so I've named her Reggie. And we've got Bunny, the clownfish.
People didn't realise at the retreat that they were helping me as well with, the inability to talk and open up about my struggles.
Hi, I'm Alan Glasper, director of the Geordie chapter, which is Harley Owners Group. We're the largest owners group in the North East, with just short of 300 members. This year we're doing a charity ride for men's mental health, and thankfully Alice is leading a campaign now to bring that to fruition.
Alan had seen what we were doing on Tyne Tees and what we were doing, and he basically said, look, we're doing a ride and we'd like to, we've done a couple of rides raising money. This one we would like to do the ride for you and donate all the money. So this gesture from Alan and all of this community, this biker community, is actually helping this idea and dream of us trying to make a change for the project and getting these free retreats all over the Northeast and then hopefully all over the country. How you doing, mate? You all right?
No, mate.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, it's unbelievable. The times we've met, only a couple of times, but we've obviously both had our game faces on because we didn't have a clue that each other was going through the same thing,
Yeah.
Did you think you were the only one out of all of the housemates over the years that was going through what you went through? Did you feel like
no,
I must be the only one suffering this out? What's the matter with this? Am I weak, or how come all the rest of them you don't hear anything about what they're going through? I'm on my own here. Did you ever think that?
I was thinking because I won it, that I shouldn't be. There was almost like I tried to have a shield, and there was for so long I was. It wanted to, especially when I was getting interviewed, I would never leak that I'd struggled for ages. I kept these cards close to my chest for so long.
Game face, innit?
Yeah, until I'd got I started sharing it and started being a bit more comfortable with it. Basically, when I was a barber. What was your main struggle then? Was it transitioning back into the thought of potentially having to get a normal job in what people would think of you?
Yeah.
Because that was fundamentally my biggest thing.
You're seen as a failure, aren't you?
Aye. Is that where
How
you
many
were
people
at?
have said to you, "Oh, you won Big Brother, didn't you? Oh, and you're doing this now."
Aye.
Oh, and then they'll come in and say something like, with me, it's always, Jade did well, didn't she? Or
Aye.
Alison's done well, hasn't she? Yeah, they
And
have.
yours
Well, I've
must-
done well, but it hasn't been on the telly as much, or shown,
yeah.
or I haven't thought about it. We've all done well in our own right.
You're actually, when you've mentioned that though, yours actually in particular, those other housemates that you've mentioned, probably all of them that you've mentioned have all done the best out of everyone. So the fact that they were on your show, that the comparison that you maybe went down must have been extremely difficult.
The message is really just never give up, never throw in the towel, and like the words in my grandma's eulogy, keep on living. So in 2014, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It was extremely upsetting and worrying time for the family, but not for my grandma. In fact, she didn't even flinch. She had absolutely no fear whatsoever. And in true Mary fashion, she wasn't going out without a fight. Never thrown in the towel. Going out swinging, and with her faith in God, a change up in nutrition, an unbreakable positive mindset, this was a fight she'd done amazing in. And it was so inspiring how she was. She had cancer for years and she looked amazing, beautiful skin, and still so sharp in the mind. That's how you deal with adversity in life. Keep on going, keep on living.